Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm already late with this video, so let's waste no time. Our last Paladins update for the year is the Ska'Drin Celebration. Our event pass corresponds with the name of the update, featuring 5 recolors of previously limited skins. These skins are Makia Makoa, a recolor of Volcanic, Shaman Grok, a recolor of Chieftain, Exhortation Nando, a recolor of Ultimatum, Infernal Lord Drogos, a recolor of Abyssal Lord, and Coastline Coney Ray, a recolor of Beach Bunny. In general, I prefer the older skins, but it is great to give the players options to achieve variants of now unobtainable skins. This stings a lot less than a fully recycled pass. In addition to this, a second recolor for Makoa, Shikoa, will be available for direct purchase. I'm actually glad I waited on this video, as a few things have changed since the initial patch notes. Alright, let's get into the meat of it. Balance. This update has some hefty changes. Let's start with the item store. After 2 years, Haven and Blast Shields are returning. Haven is replacing armor plating and will now reduce the damage you take from direct attacks by 6% scaling. Blast Shields replaces Arcane Warding and reduces the damage you take from AoE attacks by 6% scaling. The difference between the two damage types is that direct damage only affects one player max, while AoE damage is capable of hitting multiple foes at once. I am very happy to see these two items returning. I was quite vocal against the simplification of Haven back when it was first changed. Now players need to actually pay attention to what damage types are on the enemy team in order to counter them. Overall, this will be a nice buff to blasters and those with both damage types, as Haven is typically more common. Next item change is for Horde. The bonus credits from earning in the limb is going up from 5 to 7. Lastly, and a first for the item store, this item will transform at level 3. Instead of granting you bonus credits, it will instead provide 10% move speed, 10% mount speed, 10% reduced cooldowns, and 10% ultimate charge speed. To accommodate this, the item's cost has been changed from 150 scaling to 200 credits for level 1, 400 for 2, and a massive 1,750 credit cost for level 3. Overall, I really like this transformation aspect of Horde. As per community critiques, the current item is useless in the late game once your other items are capped. Now, I felt that this was a fair trade-off, but still, I think this new version is way more interesting. If you can fork up all those credits, you are rewarded with a 10% variant of all the remaining utility items. I cannot wait to stack that with other utility items for some coordinated strats. Originally, the cost for level 3 was 2,000 credits, but it was brought down to 1,750, which I feel is fair. Last item change is for Nimble. Now it's actually being buffed back to its prime, with the scaling going from 7% a level to 10% a level. Moving fast is fun, so I am overall in favor. That being said, this item is incredibly cheap now, so I could see it becoming a must-pick on all champions. Okay, champion balance. Let's kick it off with buffs to Barrack's Forgefire talent. The range of the flamethrower turrets has been upped from 22 units to the same 30 units the base ultimate has. The single turret DPS has been upped from 350 to 400, and the double turret DPS has been upped from 450 to 666. Demon! I actually didn't know that there was a damage penalty if both turrets were targeting the same enemy. That still seems kinda silly. While these buffs are nice, I don't think they will aid Barrack much. In my opinion, the problem with the current talent is that it takes too long to build your ultimate. Even if you have morale boost, it feels like it could take eons. During that downtime, you are essentially playing without a talent. In general, talents that modify ultimates are on the weaker side, since the effect only takes place a set number of times. To offset this, many of these talents offer a small passive benefit, usually a bonus to ult charge or bonus health in the case of Makoa. I feel that adding a small passive buff like that would aid this talent. It might never compete with Barrack's other options, but it will sting less when you don't have a flame turret up. Up next is Betty La Bomba, first with buffs to her ultimate. The ultimate now grants Betty CC immunity during the windup, and once Betty dismounts, the speed of the rocket will be 100 units, up from 80. Nice little quality of life buffs. Her card, Ride the Rocket, is being reworked. The old card increased the damage Cluster Bomb did to non-player entities. The new card increases the projectile speed of Cluster Bomb by 6%. I don't see this new card being played much. Next up is Bomb King with a talent buff. Accelerant will now deal 200% bonus damage to shields. Awesome, let's have the talent be strong at countering its counters. Accelerant is one of those annoying stun talents, so I dislike this buff idea, and I think it's unnecessary. Eevee's up next, first with a nerf to Snow Globe. Now the slow on Ice Storm with the talent is being reduced from 60% to 30%. Despite loving Snow Globe, I think this nerf is fair. Eevee can get her ult up insanely quick, and some champs feel helpless against that. The cripple is untouched, which is the main strength of the ult. That being said, I'm surprised that the Wormhole talent isn't also being touched, as that talent can be just as frustrating to face. Tying into Snow Globe, Eevee is receiving an interesting new card. Cold Acclamation is being reworked. The old card reduced the self-damage on weapon shots, and removed the knockback from hitting yourself. The new card heals you for 32 health scaling every second, and grants you 10% scaling move speed for every second that you're in the Ice Storm. The move speed persists for 3 seconds after leaving the ult. I'm a weirdo that used the old card, so I'm kinda sad to see that go. And this new card looks like it was made for just Snow Globe, as at base, the effects are kind of weak. And fully leveling this card just to use in your base ultimate seems like a waste. I guess the logic behind this card is to allow Eevee players to reclaim some power in the wake of her Snow Globe nerf. Grover's Chopper card, the one that heals you after hitting Crippling Throw, is seeing it scaling up from 50 a level to 100 a level. Now when capped, the card will heal you for 500, up from 250. Actually, not that bad now. Originally they buffed this card to scale by 80, but changed it to 100, with the Depth Thought stating that a steady goal of theirs is to revisit unimpactful cards. Can't wait to see what else is in store. Isle's ultimate, Begone, will no longer explode on walls. Instead, it will continue along the wall after dropping targets on collision for a few seconds. This change sounds massive, like, oh yes, Isle ult won't be garbage anymore. In reality, it's a little odd. Instead of instantly detonating, the ult will kind of hug the wall for a bit before popping. I think this change is meant to aid on maps with jank walls, so in theory, on Magistrate's Archives, you could hit the railing and have the ult climb the wall, possibly? In general though, I don't see the ult's power level changing much. Once again in the patch notes, it's Kasumi. The Yokai Doll Targeter is being nerfed once again. The cone size is being reduced from 6 units to just 1, meaning that you now have to be much more precise when playing. Which also means the one strength this weapon had over others is gone. Unfortunately, this nerf is not accompanied by a revert to the doll's range or any other quality of life buffs. Is what I said originally, but as of the updated notes, the Yokai Doll's range is returning to 120 units. However, it now suffers from damage falloff, starting at 80 units and capping at 120, where the doll will deal 40% less damage. I want to actually play with this one before dropping my final thoughts, but on paper, the damage falloff starting at 80 units sounds pretty harsh. I know this champion is still hated by many, but her days of glory have long passed, and as such, I really would like to see her in a healthier state. The Haunted Ground talent is seeing the cooldown on Spirit Traps lowered from 8 to 6 seconds. Nice buff. I don't see the talent picked much, as it's very risky, so I'm in favor. To wrap up Kasumi, we have 2 card reworks. Deadly Traps is first. The old card reduced the cooldown of Spirit Traps, while also increasing their damage. The new card increases the duration of Spirit Traps crowd control by 0.2 seconds scaling. I tested it, and it seems this card only works with the base slow of the traps, and not the fear of the Haunted Ground traps. I think the scaling is pretty low on this card, and as a result, I don't see it being played much. Next is Essence Drain. The old card buffed the damage of Savage Tear. The new card boosts your move speed by 6% scaling for 3 seconds after using Tear. Could be a fun option when comboed with Empowered Curse. Once again though, Body and Soul remains untouched. Next is Lex, with a long overdue quality of life buff. The screen shake on the Magnums has been reduced by 65%. The same goes for Death Hastens. Finally! So for those who don't know, Lex was my first main in this game. I used to play him back when third person was an option. Once that got removed, I dropped Lex as a main solely due to his insane screen shake. Seriously, I'd get a headache playing him. I cannot wait to retry Lex next patch. The Heroism talent is being reworked again. The old talent granted you CC immunity and 50% damage reduction while using Combat Slide, but upped its cooldown to 7 seconds. The new talent simply grants you CC immunity during Slide, without any cooldown penalties. I think the old version of this talent upping the cooldown to 7 seconds was insane, so I'm happy to see that go. That being said, I feel that this new talent will be niche. Sure, countering CC is nice, especially on such a short cooldown, but if you're against a team with no or light CC, you're essentially playing with no talent. I think a nice middle ground would be to offer some light damage reduction while sliding, maybe 15 to 20%. Next up is Maldamba with a card buff. Pungent Gourd, which increases move speed while standing in Gourd, is seeing its scaling up from 5% to 8%. While a 40% move speed buff sounds strong, it only occurs while you're inside the Gourd. The second you or an ally leave the pool, the speed boost suddenly stops, which is very awkward to play with. As such, this card will continue to see little play. A simple way to remedy that would be to have the speed boost linger for a second or two after leaving the Gourd. Up next is Nyx with another card rework, Center of Combat. The old card increased the damage of Royal Presence. The new card makes the poison from Royal Presence linger for 0.8 seconds scaling, returning a recently removed aspect of her base kit. Capped out, the poison will linger for 4 seconds, which is less than what it used to be in base kit. I could see this card simply replacing the current Center of Combat as a must pick. Up next we have Omen. First a change for the Aphotic Reaver. The number of weapon shots needed to enter Antumbra mode has been lowered from 2 to just 1. After 1 shot, your gun will be perfectly accurate, essentially giving you the old Umbral Lance talent in base kit. I'm very interested to see if this talent will shake up the hierarchy of Omen's talents, since the current Umbral Lance is his most played. On top of that, Omen has 3 card reworks. The first is to Everlasting Power. The old card increased your ult charge rate. The new card grants you 8% scaling move speed for 3 seconds upon marking an unmarked enemy with Ominous Brand. The second card rework is to More. The old card boosted your damage by 20%, but cut your ammo to 2. Scaling the card would give you more ammo back. The new card is as follows. While at least 2 enemies are marked with Ominous Brand, heal for 60 scaling health every second. Surprisingly, I really dig these 2 new cards. Ominous Brand is such a nothing passive currently, so having these 2 cards to play with will finally open up some tactics behind it. Move speed is great, but I'm especially interested in the healing card. Omen has very weak self-sustain, and perhaps this card will aid him in playing in the front line as a brawler, particularly when comboed with his new move speed bonus. That being said, I am a bit saddened to see the original More go. I hope to see it return as a talent. I think the double barrel shotgun idea has potential, as mentioned in my Omen rework concept. Last for Omen is a rework to Void Choke. The old card boosted the damage of Gravity Vice. The new card increases the lift height of Gravity Vice by 30% scaling. It's funny to look at, but I don't see this card getting much play. Next up, and the winner of the patch for me, is Ray. She has a new passive, Mana Drain. Hitting enemies with Sigil reduces the cooldown of Chain Heal by 0.4 seconds. In the patch notes, it states that this passive works like the current Magic in the Blood card, where it reduces the cooldown of your next Chain Heal, but in my testing, it reduced the cooldown of your current Chain Heal. And personally, I hope it stays like that, because that's much easier to understand. Anyways, Magic in the Blood is Ray's best card. Any option to lower your main healing cooldown will always be a must pick on any support. As such, I'm usually against those types of cards and believe that they should be base kit to open up loadout flexibility. Placing the level 4 version of the card in base is a huge buff and might offer Ray the chance to keep up healing wise with other supports. Ray has many other buffs to accompany this, like for the Spirit Link. The Spirit Link's time to break has been upped from 2.25 seconds to 3 seconds, which is a nice quality of life buff. Envelop is next with some number tweaks. First, the ability will no longer deal damage to nearby enemies. That was such a nothing stat anyways, so I'm not saddened to see it go. The increased jump height you receive during the ability is going from 50% to 75%. In theory, the jump height should allow Ray herself to go for some more interesting maneuvers, thanks in part to her built-in passive of jumping higher than others. Next, we got a tweak to the focus talent. The cooldown is going from 7 to 6 seconds, but the uptime of the link is going from 4 to the base 3 seconds. Overall, I think the talent will remain about the same power-wise. So remember when I mentioned loadout diversity for Ray? Well, she has a ton of card buffs to allow for that. The first is for Arcane Maelstrom, which decreases your allies' cooldowns when using Envelop. The scaling is going from 4% to 7% a level. Capped out, you will be reducing ally cooldowns by 35%, up from 20%. On paper, yes, this is massive, but in practice, you need an insane amount of coordination to know when to use Envelop at the right time. Not to mention that Envelop is Ray's most valuable skill. You do not want to be tossing that out at random. If anything, I think the card will be better as a filler, but if you're playing solo, I personally wouldn't level it higher than a 1. An interesting idea, and one that could lean into that filler style, is having the card start at 10% cooldown reductions, but reduce its scaling to 5%. This would keep its strength as a filler, while having a similar power level when capped, creating a best of both worlds. Next is Arcane Manipulation, which decreases the cooldown of Envelop. The scaling is going from 0.3 to 0.8 seconds. When capped, the cooldown redux go from 1.5 seconds to 4 seconds, putting Envelop on a 10-second cooldown. This might be a controversial take, but I don't think putting Envelop on such a low cooldown is a good idea. With Chronos and this card capped, you can have Envelop on a 7-second cooldown, which I feel is too strong. I could see this card replacing Magic in the Blood as a new must-pick. Next is Desperate Defense, which heals you when using Envelop. The scaling is going from 50 to 80. Now when capped, you heal for 400, up from 250. Still a trash card that's not worth picking, especially when taking into account how good Ray is at self-sustaining. Next is the new Magic in the Blood. The level 4 version of the card went to base kit, so the new card increases Ray's healing received by 5% scaling while below half health. This card works with Ray's own chain heal, granting the support with the most self-sustain even more of it. I could see this card making its way into a few decks. Threat and Subject is up next. This card boosts your move speed after getting in a limb. The scaling is going from 8% to 10% a level. The card is fine, sure, but Ray has many more useful options. Last, and not mentioned in the patch notes, is a shadow nerf to Midnight Stroll. This card reduces the damage of the enemy you're linked to. Previously, the scaling was 4%, now it's 3%. When capped, the difference goes from 20% to 15%. Midnight Stroll is my favorite card for Ray, as it allows me to play as a hybrid brawler. I'm really sad to see it nerfed, as it's one of her few options that encourages you to use the link aggressively. Still though, I like a majority of these changes for Ray. The new passive in particular should potentially allow her to work as a solo healer. Another set of changes, this time to Sati. No, for real. Ricochet is up first with a slight rework. Now, the max number of shots you need to hit on the coin to trigger the explosion is going down from 4 to 1. So now, to trigger the explosion, you throw the coin, shoot once to stop it and get your auto-aim shot, and then shoot once more to detonate it. To accompany this, the explosion damage is being upped from 550 to 750, but the AoE is going down from 35 to 25 units. I Really like this change to the coin. I've been asking for an option for a faster detonate for a while now. Originally, I wanted it as a talent, but I'm thrilled to see it in base kit. The current coin is one of the weirdest abilities in this game. You throw it and it just sits there as you shoot it a bunch of times, which overall is less DPS than just shooting an enemy outright. Now the coin will actually see some use against grouped foes, which is something Sati struggles with. To accompany this, the spare change talent is being tweaked. The current talent lowers the cost of Ricochet to 2 pips, and refunds you 1 pip for every 4 Ricochet shots hit. The new talent keeps the lower Ricochet cost, but now grants you 2 pips for earning in a limb. The current talent is a contender for one of the worst in the game. The new talent finally offers Sati a form of cooldown reductions, since she can't buy Chronos. I think it's a nice simple talent for general play. Like Ray, Sati also has some card updates. The first is a rework to Costly Physics. The old card increased the time that Ricochet remained airborne. The new card increases the AoE of Ricochet's explosion by 8% scaling. A nice pick since the base AoE went down. Steel Coin Purse, which grants damage reduction after using Ricochet, is seeing its scaling and time limit increased. The scaling DR is going from 3 to 4%, and the time limit is going from 2.5 to 3 seconds. Overall, this will make Sati more durable. Last, a buff for paper design, which decreases the time between dead ringer bursts. The scaling is being doubled, going from 4 to 8%. With this card, the delay is essentially non-existent, and the decoy just keeps on firing. I really wish I could love this card, but the problem is the decoy itself. It doesn't matter how fast it shoots, since it's just mindlessly going in a straight line. Just dropping that I would love a talent for Sati that allowed the dead ringer to aim where she herself is aiming. I'm quite pleased with these Sati changes. They seem to land her in a more healthy spot since her weird pip rework from a while ago. Okay, next up is the hot topic of the patch, Seris, who is once again getting a talent added to base kit. This time, it's frickin' Soul Collector. Now, each time you detonate souls, you gain 1.5% health and weapon damage until you die. This stacks 16 times, which places you at the same 24% total that the current talent provides. Oh my Genos. I gotta say it once again. Why does Seris have to be good in the ranked scene? They're the smallest portion of the player base, and this change doesn't alleviate their main problem with Seris anyway. The problem with Seris, according to the ranked scene, is that she does nothing while she's healing. Which the Forsake talent fixes, by the way. That's the reason it was added. Soul Collector is by far Seris' best option, but adding it to base kit and giving her the option to pick a second talent on top of that will send her over the edge. Sure, she might still be niche in the ranked scene, while completely destroying the casual scene. The bonus damage is one thing, but the bonus health can make a good Seris player very challenging to take down. The penalty of having to hit 4 more orbs to get full stacks might as well not even be there for good Seris players. Cryptic on Twitter has said that the team is open to reverting this change if Seris proves to be too oppressive. I foresee that happening in a hotfix. It's funny how Seris is getting all these crazy buffs instead of simply adding her Veil card to base kit. Oh yeah, that's not it for Seris. What's the talent replacing Soul Collector? Volatile Rift, which boosts your ult charge rate by 50% when hitting soul orbs. At least it used to be before this update. Now, Seris' new talent is Resuscitate, which increases your Soul Collector health and weapon damage bonus to 2% per charge. Now when capped at 16 charges, you will have 32% bonus health and damage. Yeah, expect a mega busted coordinated strats video soon. Next up is Torvald, starting with some pretty chunky nerfs. His base HP is being lowered from 3,000 to 2,800, but his shield health is going from 2,500 to 2,700. Overall, Torvald will have the same 5,500 health pool, but 200 of it is being shifted to shields. This on top of a nerf to protection shield health, going from 550 to 500, means that Torvald will be even more susceptible to Wrecker. I personally don't see Torvald as that strong. He's the one champion in this game who gets completely shut down by the item shop. You buy Wrecker for the shields, which now is stronger against Torvald himself since he has more base shields, and you buy Unbound against Nullify. If the team picks both, you literally can't do anything as Torvald. I suppose you could boost your personal shield slightly more with Guardian, but Wrecker still shuts that down. Frankly, I hope Torvald is the next to get a significant rework. He keeps going through cycles of usefulness, and it's getting old, like him at this point. Despite those pretty hefty nerfs, Torvald has 2 card reworks. The first is to Induction. The current card grants ammo after using Recharge, but has an internal timer. The new card reduces the cooldown of Protection by 0.4 seconds scaling after using Recharge. Capped out, that's a 2-second reduction. Not bad. This card also replaces a trash card, so I'm in favor. Infusion is next. The current card heals you for a flat 50 scaling health after using Nullify. The new card heals you for 30 scaling health every 0.5 seconds when channeling Nullify. Capped out, you will heal for 300 a second over 2 seconds, which comes out to 600 health. That being said, I actually think this card is worse. Because the duration of Nullify gets shorter with Unbound, it means that this healing, like everything else in Torvald's base kit, can be neutered by an item in the shop. When facing a capped Unbound, Nullify is only 0.5 seconds, meaning you're only getting 150 health, down from 250. Big yikes for Torvald. Up next are buffs for Willow's other 2 talents. Wow, I didn't realize she had 2 other talents. Nightshade now refunds 25% of Dead Zone's cooldown on hit. That sounds really frustrating to fight. On hit, you get 4 seconds of the cooldown back, placing Dead Zone at 12 seconds. If you have Chronos 3, hitting it direct with Dead Zone will put its cooldown at 8.4 seconds. On top of being annoying for spamming anti-healing spots, it's also going to be annoying to deal with Willow's burst combos more. I'm not in favor of this change. The other talent buff is for Scorn. Now the secondary seedlings deal a bonus 1500 damage over 2 seconds to any deployable shields hit. Like the Bomb King Accelerant buff, I'm also not in favor of this one. I think Wrecker by itself counters shields enough. Next up is Ying with a card buff. Shuffle, which boosts your move speed during Dimensional Link, is seeing its scaling doubled, going from 10% to 20%. Now when capped, you double your move speed for the time Link is active. Last for the patch notes is another 2 talent changes, this time for Xin. Up first is Guillotine. Now the talent refunds 20% of your ult charge if it's used as a killing blow, which I think is fair. Next is Yomi, which is getting reworked. The old talent boosted the damage of your heavy hit by 150. The new talent is as follows. Whirl now ignites enemies hit for 3 seconds. Your Inferno Blade deals 20% bonus damage to targets who are burning or ignited. In a bubble, I like this talent way more than the old Yomi. Setting up engages with Whirl to ensure bonus damage sounds fine. What I don't like about this talent is something new it's bringing to Paladins. This talent gets bolstered in strength depending on your teammates, as ally burns grant you the bonus damage. So, if you're on a team with Fernando, Sati, or Barrick, Xin will have more opportunities for bonus damage, since they all apply burns. It'll be interesting to see for sure, and a fun coordinated strats, but I'm not sure how much I like the idea of essentially forcing synergies. Alrighty, that's it for this patch. Some changes I like, some I don't. Overall, I do think it's a hearty patch to send out the year. What do you guys think of the Ska'Drin Celebration patch? Let me know down below. Don't forget to clap that like button and laser down that sub button. Snatching the bell is also a great way to stay in the loop. As always, I'm YellowNinja, and peace.